Alright, ladies, gentlemen, and every magnificent thing between and outside. This is the Envoy of Kairos, back for more of my modded Terraria speed build series. And we're getting on to our next town. Now, as you may remember from the Word document that I pulled up in the first episode, every other town is going to be significantly larger than the graveyard was. So the next one's probably going to be split between 2 or 3 episodes. What are we doing, though? Well, let's consult the wheel. So, here we have our wheel, and the remaining options are Desert, Jungle, Tundra, Hallowed, Hell, Underground, Ocean, and Space. We do not have the forest on there just yet, because I need to clear out more space in the middle of the map by building more NPC houses, so I actually have other places to put them. So, let's see what we get today. And it looks like this is going to be the cold one. But I do quite like the Tundra biome. There's a lot of potential and options with it. So, let's take a dive into there and see what I can figure out what to do. So, due to part of the mods in this, well, mod pack, there is one significant issue with the snow biome, sadly. But it is easily correctable, or it can be worked around and made into part of the build. So, for one, it's a little small due to extra biomes that are worked into the entire map due to the mod pack. That does complicate things a bit. But then there's also the fact that, well, there's this thing here. This laboratory was part of one of the mods. Obviously, I harvested a good number of materials from it. And it takes up a pretty sizable space. But I could easily work it into the build somehow because, well, it's pretty obvious what NPCs I'm putting here, because pretty much everybody does. As you can see here on the Word document, the Tundra biome has the mechanic and the goblin, as well as the steampunker, the cyborg. And from the modded set, we also have the tinkerer. So, there's a lot of very mechanically oriented characters here. It would just make sense to make some sort of research station. So I can use the general design and exterior of this place as the foundations for it. Now, I don't want to use the same general build, but the block palette here is great for a research center. And I could easily keep the elevator here, because I do quite like it. So, obviously, Santa is an NPC from the main game that does not spawn until the holiday season. So, we're not going to be seeing him. But the mod does include an elf that spawned after taking out the Christmas-themed invasion event. So I can build a house for the two of them and just have the elf living there. They're probably going to be tucked up on the hill. Then, there's Deerclops and the Ice Queen. And the two of them will definitely also have houses on the surface. There's a cave that I can easily tuck the Deerclops into, because I would want it to be something that appears very basic and almost feral. And then for the Ice Queen, I would definitely be using a lot of different ice blocks to create a sort of a small palace for her. So that really covers everything here. Overall, that does reduce the complexity of this a little bit. The research station is going to be the most difficult thing. and expanding it so that there's proper housing for everyone involved in it, something cozy for everyone there. So the research station is going to have to be split up between individual research labs for each of their specialties, as well as housing areas for every one of them tucked into another part of it. So I'm going to end up expanding the ruins of this laboratory by quite a bit, and I'm probably going to do most of that expansion underground. Overall, the terraforming for this won't be too difficult. This should be fun. And then, of course, for the cave, I could easily tuck that somewhere in here. Use these small hovering parts and carve out some space underneath it. Use that as a roof. Probably stick a bunch of furs on the wall. Should be interesting. And then, for the North Pole, I'll of course stick that up here. That all should come together quite nicely. So, I should probably start with clearing out the base and getting all the terraforming done. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, so I have the general base set up properly here. The entrance is small, isolated. We've got some spotlights and a steam vent up here. The chest I'm going to remove later, but I was largely just using it for storing extra blocks without deleting them, you know, when I just have too many materials in my inventory. I'm going to repaint a lot of this later, but I wanted to show the general function of everything real quick. So, oh. Mess that up. There we go. So I put the elevator back in after updating it. Added a couple of others. Plenty of lighting. Dim, but effective. Very stylized. Quite a few desks and computers set up for the research center. And the subject of it is just down here. So I wanted to do something with the hardened meteor blocks that I got through the Meteor Man NPC. So I figured, why not have one that landed here and is currently being researched? Overall, makes plenty of sense. Anomalous object from outer space lands in the middle of the tundra. Somebody's going to show up to do something about it. I'm eventually going to put some text on these signs, but right now I haven't a clue. I'll come up with something later. I'm also thinking I might paint some of the meteor to make it look like it's astral materials from the pillars amalgamated together. When I get to painting this, it's going to be a considerable amount of work. But it should be pretty awesome. My next step, though, is that through these 4 doors, I need to make homes for all of the different citizens living here. So, through one side, I'm definitely going to have the mechanic and the goblin tinkerer. Because always house them together. They're a great couple. Then the steampunker and the modded tinkerer NPC will probably end up housed together as well. So I'll probably end up sticking them over on this side beneath the other 2. And then over here, I'm going to be putting the cyborg and the operator who runs the entire facility. Overall, should work out pretty nicely. The hard part is deciding, should I put the mechanic and the goblin up here, or should it be the steampunker and tinkerer? I'm leaning on steampunker because I can then use these steam vents to really add to the aesthetic of it. So that should probably be the direction I go. Let's see what I can manage to do. Okay, so let's see what all we've got here so far. Up here we've got the Tinkerer and Steampunker's home. I decided to go with a rustic factory sort of design, you know. Really needed to fit the steampunk aesthetic. So using the unpainted dusty bricks just kind of worked all too well. Then the checkered glass added an excellent bit of texture, and the tin plating framing definitely pulls it all together. I ended up using more of the conduits and vents to produce all of this steam you're looking at here. And... huh, that's odd. These were made solid again. I actuated those. I'll fix that when I turn my microphone back off to get back to building. So, yeah, I used those to create a bunch of steam, because with the Steampunker's house, why would I not? I've got the steampunk boiler as the center of a machine of their own design, with a conveyor leading into it, and a patch of ash from the spent materials for the burning. I've got a good pool of lava heating all of their water sourced from that pond and from the surrounding snow. The steampunk furniture, of course, was absolutely necessary, and all of the additional furniture in that set that was added with the mods added quite a nice touch. Especially the larger bed here to suit them both. Their kitchen space is negligible because these are engineers. They are probably not good cooks. Then down here, we have a place that's much more cozy and rustic for the mechanic and the goblin. Of course, it was absolutely necessary to house them together. They're a precious couple within this game. Kinda had to happen. Their living space is much more comfortable. Their kitchen is still negligible. But they've got a lot going on here. Up in the third floor, they have a very nice bedroom with a lot going on. A treasure room with some more valuable books stashed back there, as well as several chests, a safe, a bunch of coins, and their personal painting. Down in the basement is their workshop with 2 tinkerers' workshops, their specialty. And then a much more private room for them, tucked back here. They may be an incredible couple, but being the shy nerds they both are, they needed someplace out of the way. They're definitely not a couple that's very interested in PDA. And then lastly, we have all of the painting that I did over here. But yeah, I think the paint job really improved this a lot, although it was mostly turning the tin plating completely gray. As you can see, it does make quite the difference, just comparing them between these two buildings here. Overall, I think the paint job turned out excellent. But now, that leaves me 2 more NPC houses off to this side that I need to do. That's going to be the cyborg up here and the operator down here. The cyborg, I've got a pretty obvious block palette already decided. Shouldn't take me long to pull that together and get it built. The cyborg's place will probably be one of the simpler designs, since he doesn't need quite as much as the others. The operator, I'm not entirely sure how I want to do with them yet. Some sort of trophy room of the mechanical bosses, maybe. Definitely a slightly more extravagant office space, but relatively Spartan besides that. I don't see them being the sort that has too much for themselves, except what's used for the pomp and circumstance that keeps their employees in line. So it should be interesting. So, let's get back to work. Well, that didn't take half as long as I expected. Although there is one thing I missed here. Hold on a moment. There we go. That fixed it. So, Cyborg's place up here. Rather Spartan. He canonically doesn't eat, so he didn't need a kitchen. He is largely acting as the local security officer, and clearly doing a very good job of it considering the myriad of screens and text scattered throughout the place, and being one of the most dangerous canon NPCs in the game. So, if anything does get in here trying to fight them, they're not going to last long. Unless it's a boss, in which case, you know, I should be showing up anyway. He has a rather Spartan bedroom with just his bed function, which functions more as a recharge station, a nice TV, and a very basic bathroom. Overall, the biggest thing was just making all of these high-tech components for the general construction come together. The nanite blocks and the Martian plating go incredibly well together, and I've very commonly combined blue gem spark walls with it, but the addition of the turquoise ones from the mod pack is quite nice. Then, down here, the operator, who I have yet to move in. Hold on a moment. Where is she? Ah. She is just a little bit weeb-coated. Seems like someone who is constantly stressed as hell and needs a place that's good to de-stress from her rather taxing job dealing with all the anomalous bullshit she faces around here. So I decided as the boss of this place, she would have a rather extravagant office tucked down here with some clearly Japanese-inspired architecture. Plenty of trophies, a few paintings, a lot of sakura trees planted about. But then her living space is rather compact because she's just so dedicated to her work. So, she doesn't really cook. She has others cook for her and keeps easy meals prepared and ready for her, ready in her fridge constantly. Her bedroom is quite nice, spacious, relaxing, but still also relatively bare. But the trees really do add a nice splash of color to it, as well as the green paper lanterns. And then, of course, the most extravagant thing in her home, besides her office, is I gave her a nice hot spring. As for the fog, I have an echo-coated fog machine right there. Just brought the whole thing together wonderfully. And with that done, this base is complete. All 4 intended NPCs are housed, or not 4, all 6 intended NPCs are housed here, among 4 different homes. 2 excellent couples scattered in it. And the next move on our next video, I'm going to be making the Pylon Temple. That should be fun. Still don't quite know what I'm going to do with it, but I'll figure it out by the time I start recording the next one next week. And then up here, I'm going to be making the Deerclops' place tucked in a cave in this region. And then the North Pole scattered over here. And I'm probably going to put the Ice Queen's palace on the hill up here. Although I might actually have her positioned up here on top of the Deerclops' cave. And have him as sort of like a guard dog. That could work nicely. And we'll consolidate them well between these 2 areas, and then I can move the pylon right about here, tucked right between them. That would work pretty nicely. But for now, this is the Envoy of Kairos signing out. And I'll see you all next time when I, hopefully, finish this entire biome. Then we can move on to the next. This is going to be a long series. Not as long as my entire original playthrough, considering all of the other shit that went on during that. But still going to be a lot of building. And I am looking forward to it. Now, if only my NPCs would stop dying and respawning every time I reload the game. It might be just because I have far too many of them packed in one place here and they despawn because there's too many entities. So once I get them decentralized and scattered across a few towns, they should hopefully stop despawning. Well, see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.